and Shema Yisrael, the guys up above are going, and this is my body, broken for you. It's like, whoa. Now that is a pluralistic service in one building, okay? Again, upstairs, downstairs. But we have the tomb of David to this day. I mean, you visit there. None of us want to look inside. But presumably the bones are way gone, decayed, like all flesh. From dust you came, to dust you go. And so it's the place of remembrance. It's a holy place in Judaism, the tomb of King David in Mount Zion. So that's problem number one. The second problem the rabbis note is that to use the word kadosh in the context of King David, is that really true? If it is, it's the only place in all the scriptures about King David where he is called kadosh, holy. I mean, kadosh is a strong term. Holy one. I mean, I think King David would be the first to say, ay, 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 oy vey, not me. I mean, I'm trying my hardest, and I'm seeking God, and I put God at my front right hand, but please don't call me kadosh. And the rabbis say, no, that it's something more is going on here than King David. Two rabbis in particular, our sages, speak of this Psalm 16. One is Kimchi. I'm sorry I didn't write his name up. Kimchi, spelled like the Korean soup. Kimchi, right? Is it soup? I don't know if I ever had it. Okay, whatever it is, kimchi. But in Hebrew we say kimchi, so please don't say it wrong. You'll be ordering something. But Rabbi Kimchi, David Kimchi from the Middle Ages, says, quote, when the psalmist dies, his body will not decompose, unquote. He's just reading the psalm. He says what this psalm says is that when the psalmist dies, his body will not decompose. You will not let your Holy One see decay. He doesn't explain how that's going to happen, or even if it's King David, because, again, if that's true, it just doesn't match the facts in the tomb of David. But he says that Hebrew says that this Holy One will not be decayed. That's it. Okay, Rabbi Kimchi. Rashi, you know him better. Rabbi Shlomo Yitzhaki, called Rashi, great commentator. He says, the endless joy, this last verse, 11, the endless joy that's spoken of is, quote, the joy of the future. The joy of the future kingdom. Neither one of them say it's Mashiach directly, but you can see them wrestling with this. It's like, whatever it is, it's not King David, or what David is saying here seems to be prophetic. And maybe it connects to David because there's a greater son of David that this would beautifully apply to. The Mashiach, the Messiah, a son of David, the son of David, a descendant of King David, who could be rightly called the Holy One, who could rightly be said that his body, even if he goes to Sheol, will not decay. Well, it's so interesting from Tehillim 16. This is just a psalm and some of the rabbi's statement, but we can now understand. I mean, I read one of the sermons by our brother Peter, Kepha, right? New Covenant. And it just all comes together. He gave a great sermon at this season of the year in Jerusalem. Acts chapter 2, I think, connects the dots for us. Book of Acts, New Testament, chapter 2. Most of you know the book of Acts is the history of the Yeshua movement. Starting, all the first part of the book is about Jews and the Yeshua movement. In fact, a lot of you were in our class. We just finished the book of Acts recently on Tuesday night, Yeshiva, and the theme verse of Acts is Acts 1:8. You will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Jerusalem. And I have to say, Jerusalem is not San Diego. Okay? The reason I say that, I just heard it on the radio the other day. We must go to our Jerusalem, San Diego. It's like, okay, what happened to the Jews? What happened to Israel? What happened to the historical context of the verse? I think when he says go to Jerusalem, he means Jerusalem, Yerushalayim. Jerusalem, Judea, meaning the larger land of Israel, Judea, Shomron, Samaria. And then, yes, it goes viral, the international, every part of the world, uttermost part of the Roman Empire to the whole world. So it'll go everywhere. But Acts chapter 2, it's all a bunch of yids, to put it that way, on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. It's 50 days after Pesach. I mean, it's this time of year. And, I mean, it's a spectacular chapter. But I do want to hit just a couple highlights on it because, I mean, you got to get your mind around this. Temple Mount. A lot of you have seen it. You've seen pictures of it. You've been there. You see, well, if nothing else, you see tens of thousands at Pesach, tens of thousands of Jewish people praying at the wall. That was where Kepha was. Peter. I'll have to say he wasn't at St. Peter's Square, okay? It's named after him, I know, but it wasn't. He was in Yerushalayim, the holy Temple Mount. Acts 2, verse 22, as you can see. We'll let the sermon almost speak for itself. He says, men of Israel. Oh, I guess, again, is it literal? He's talking to how, he didn't have the luxury of a microphone, but how many hundreds, thousands of people could he address? They're all traditional Jews worshiping on the next holiday of Shavuot. Men of Israel, Jewish brothers, listen to these words. Yeshua of Nazareth, a man attested to you by Hashem, with miracles and wonders and signs, which God, Hashem, performed through him in your midst. Not just words. You know what I'm talking about. You saw it. You saw Shlomo at the gate who was lame. Yeshua walks by, you see Shlomo dancing the hora in the Temple Mount. What's going on? You saw these things. You can't deny it. Just as you yourselves know. No one's arguing. Verse 23, this man delivered over for the predetermined plan and foreknowledge of Hashem, God himself. You nailed to a cross by the hands of godless men, the Romans, really, godless men, and put him to death. Now, you really have to parse that verse a little bit. Forgive my paranoid nature, but, for too long in history, we were called. I was called, elementary school here in San Diego, a Christ killer. Got in a fight one time, public school about it. Christ killer? I don't know the guy. Why? I didn't kill him. I don't even know him. What are you talking about? But, this guy just wanted to fight because he knew I was Jewish. And a lot worse things have happened in history. Christ killer. But notice how Peter says it very carefully. He says, yes, there's some responsibility of some of the Jewish leadership. No doubt about it. Even modern rabbis would say, yeah, our leadership back then said he's not the Messiah. We agree. Turn him over to the Romans. Let him deal with it. Turn him over to the godless men. The Jews couldn't even kill someone if we wanted to back in that era of the Roman Empire. The Romans controlled all those things. But ultimately, did you see this verse? This is very important. It's the predetermined plan and foreknowledge of God. He's very clear. I mean, it's not even a thought like, oh, all our people are responsible. No, it doesn't say that. Okay, there were some. Whoever rejected him, responsible. Whoever turned him over, we know guys like Caiaphas, but, Roman guys like Pilate, Herod, I mean, those guys were bad news. Why should they get off from their guilty actions? But ultimately, it's the plan of God. Weird. In the great cosmic order of things, it was God's eternal plan that the Mashiach would come. He's going to die. He's going to have to be killed even, the scriptures say. Someone's going to have to do that. I mean, maybe it's my weird Jewish logic, but I always wonder, why are you angry if I'm a Christ killer? I thought you guys liked it that he died on Easter and all, Good Friday. It's like, what's the problem? But I know, that's twisted, weird. But is it so much? It's like, well, wait a second. You guys are having holidays about the death of Jesus and about the resurrection, and then you're burning synagogues because it happened. It's just a satanic mix-up, isn't it? Crazy stuff. For any of you who haven't read the New Testament, there's no anti-Semitism in the New Testament. There just isn't. I think there's some verses, maybe even this verse, that anti-Semites can take and twist and run with it. It's happened. But, I mean, I've been reading it 40 years, and I'm still a strong believer. There's not 1 ounce of anti-Semitism. There's Jews arguing with each other. What else is new? You see that over D.Z. Aikens, right? Delhi. Jews talk, they argue. But there's a big difference between 2 Jews arguing about something and non-Jews accusing Jews of killing their God. Big jump in logic. It's not in the New Testament. Verse 24, but God raised him, Yeshua, again, putting an end to the agony of death, the death of death, since it was impossible for him to be held in its power. Now check this out, verse 25. For King David says of him, quote, I saw the Lord always in my presence. He is at my right hand so that I will not be shaken. Therefore my heart is glad, my tongue exults. Moreover, my flesh will live in hope. Psalm 16, right? He's just quoting the Tehillim right there. He's got it memorized, Peter, of course, as would most of the crowd he was talking to. And he's saying all this is predicted. What just happened 50 days earlier in this holy city of Jerusalem? Verse 27, because King David says, you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, Hades, whatever translation, nor allow your Holy One to undergo decay. You have made known to me the ways of life. You will make me full of gladness with your presence. End quote. Brothers, I love that again. Peter doesn't say, you Jews. I'm exaggerating, but you get the point? Like, I'm a Christian, you Jews. Or blah, blah, blah. Men of Israel, listen up. Brothers, Jewish brothers, he's still connected. How can he not be connected? Peter is a Jew. I'm not sure about the first pope, but he is a Jew. Forgive me. Brothers, I may confidently say to you, Peter saw